All right, welcome back. We are COMP229. That's Web Application Development in the summer 2022 semester at Centennial. And this is week 6, part 2 of our broadcast, actually. And I normally don't do this kind of thing, but I know that some of you are struggling with TypeScript. And I talked about using JavaScript on the shell, on the core shell. And then I'm showing you how to do TypeScript. And you're like, wait, but you didn't show us how to do full CRUD. And you're asking us to do that for our contact list on our assignments. How do we do it? So this is why I'm doing the special segment just for you guys to help you out. So the last thing we did, if we go back to our project, this is for the last group that we had, right? So let's get in there right now. So here's our project. So we were here, and I'm just going to make sure that my reference project is closed, just because I know that what I like to do is kind of have my reference document ready to go at the same time. So here we go. So yeah, so here's the project that we were working on last time, and what we did, remember last time, and I'm just going to run with a local Mongoose or MongoDB database for now. Then we'll put it up on Heroku and all that stuff and fix it up. Let's take a look just to make sure those modifications are there. So we had our remote URI and we had our MongoDB Atlas as the host name. I'm just temporarily going to use our local URI so that we can work locally. So into my app.ts for now, just to follow along if you're interested, I'm just going to do one of these. I'm going to say if my remote URI is there, cool, use that. Otherwise, don't use that. Otherwise, instead of that, use my dbconfig.local URI. So this is something you can do so that way you can test both locally and remotely at the same time, which is kind of cool. And let's transpile. So we'll do that and do the watch task. And there we go. So now it's going to be transpiled. There is this error, this pesky error that's been bothering everybody. They're giving me, mail or connecting with me on Discord saying, Tom, you still got this error and you haven't fixed it. I'm going to fix it today, right? So like I talked about, I had to look it up and see if there's a quick way of doing it. There is. So that's the one thing I wanted to do. First transpile and use this, but then what it's going to show is a host name is, kind of a remote URI, which is MongoDB Atlas, but that's not true. So I'm going to do a little ternary operator as well. I'm going to say if dbconfig.remote URI, if that exists, well, then do the host name as we said. Otherwise, if it doesn't exist, then just use localhost so that we know what I'm connecting to. Okay, so that's something we can do as well. And then finally, let's just run this thing and see how it works. So here's our PowerShell. I'm just going to do nodemon, and we're going to get going. It should connect locally because we're not able to connect remotely. So there's, oh, well, that's not good. Sorry, let's just stop that for a second. I meant, I meant that up online, let's go back to our db thing. So this is normally what our connection string is, remember? I'm just going to turn this off. And normally what I talked about in the video is that, hey, you know what? Maybe this isn't such a good idea because you're showing us your connection string. Instead, let's use a remote URI that is equal to the process.environment.remote URI. That's what we said last day. And that definitely should not exist. Okay, so that was incorrect. Let's just save that. Good. And let's do that again. So now we're going to connect to our remote URI on our server. That's what this is. We're using an environment variable. Let's do that now. So let's try that again. And you should see that it connects to the local host, not to MongoDB Atlas, because this does not compute. We don't have a remote URI environment variable. And so we're using a switch case, kind of a switching, to basically choose to connect locally, which is pretty cool. All right, so that is the first thing that we want to try and do, right? So First thing we want to do is we want to take care of that. Just going to do that. Okay, good. Excellent. So, so that's the first piece. The first piece is, hey, as an example, we have everything connected locally. Now, things that we're missing are models. Let's fix that problem with the model right now. So we had this issue last day where we were trying to cast our user schema as a passport local schema. That was an issue. And I said I would try and fix this. One of the easy ways to fix it, I think, is to modify just to silence the error, because it's not my problem, it's not my error. It's an error with the type definition. And what it basically says is that it needs at least two things, right? And it has a couple of additional things that are optional. And the way they did the optionals is they kind of align this with a object. Well, let's just do the same thing with this. We'll say that, so all of these are optional. We'll just say that the tag type is optional. We'll even say the model is optional. Everything is optional. We're changing actually the index.d.ts temporarily to silence the error. We're going to click save, and we're going to close this off. And now when we go back to our model, no more error. There's that fix that I would recommend for you. Now, one challenge is if we ever update or download our node modules, then this will just go back to what it was before, and it won't remember our change. But again, this is just for us, and we know it's okay. It works fine. So we just don't want the error to clutter up our day, if you will. So let's make sure that we do that as well. Getting spammed here, but that's okay. We can just get rid of those. All right, so so that was the first thing. So the first thing is, hey, this is pretty cool, and all that kind of stuff. How are we going to fix this problem? Next, what we didn't have to do full CRUD is some kind of edit file, for example, or edit kind of page. We don't have that edit page. So what I want to do here is give you the edit page. So up on eCentennial, if you look there, I've given you guys an edit.ejs page. So let's download this. So I'm going to say kind of download. And then I'll put this edit.ejs page in place. So I'm going to go to our desktop, and I'm going to go to Centennial and COMP229 and into section 1, which is you guys, the last people that I dealt with, and going to lesson 6. I'm going to look inside of the server and inside of views, content, and I'm going to populate this edit.ejs directly in there. So save. Okay, so I'm just prepping for what we're doing. That's that edit page. And then you can see that there is this new edit page right here. So this is the edit page we're going to use. It's kind of, instead of me having to type this in and you having to type this in, I've kind of added this edit page in there for you so you can see what it looks like. Very similar to what we saw in the online video that I shared with you on the course show, which is not something that I want you guys to necessarily have to deal with putting in by yourself. So that's what this piece is. Okay, this is the edit page. And the next thing that I want to do is I want to think about how we're going to change the contact list and everything else. Because right now, if I go to my page, let's just do a localhost here. If I go localhost 3000, and if I log in, so I'm logging in locally, you can see that I've got a few movies. I've added this other one, Blade Runner. I'm going to use this as a test. I want to add a couple things. I want to edit buttons and delete buttons. And I also want to add an add button up here. Okay, that's what I want to add as well. So those are the things we need to modify. We need to modify our movie list. Let's do the movie list modification now. So yeah, let's log out. And inside of this piece, we have inside the content a movie list, right? So that is what we want to modify first, this piece right here. So far all we do is we see a table, and that's good. What we want instead is to also see the movie list details and how that is going to look different than what we have right now. So first thing is just underneath the column here, I'm going to add in a button. So we're going to make it an anchor tag with an href of add, right? So that's going to be the add button. I'm going to give it also an ID of the add button, just in case I want to access it. I'm going to give it a class of button dash primary, which is the blue button, and then margin bottom 1, which is going to give me some margin between the button and my table. Inside of the anchor tag, I'm going to use an I tag with the class of FAS and then FA plus circle. That's the old one. Maybe we can find one that's a little newer, right? And then we're going to call that button the add button. So that is the button that we're going to use. Let's see if I can find a newer font awesome one than that uses, because we've been using solid the entire time, and here we're not. So let's go back up there and find one. So I'm going to go to font awesome, and we want to go to icons, and I want to go and click kind of the plus, and we're going to go for free and definitely want solid. So you can see there's the plus circle plus, right? There's also square plus. There's a bunch of new ones, which is pretty cool that they've added all these ones in and given us access. So I'm going to go circle plus. So it's going to be FA solid, FA circle plus. That's the one I want to use. And going back to my code, FA solid is what I want, right? So this one. And I just want to replace the one I already have. So that kind of is the one I want to use. There we go. So that is FA solid, FA circle plus. That's the one I'm going to use for my add button. Let's see how that looks. I'm going to go back to here and log in. And then there it is. So it's going to say add, but we just don't want to say add. We want to say like add movie, right? So there's add movie. There it is, add movie. And when I click add movie, it's going to take me to the add link. So that's the first thing I want to do, add the movie in there. I also want to add in these columns, I mentioned that I'm going to add edit and delete buttons. And let's add those in there too. So how do we do those? We have spaces for them right here. This is where they're going to go. And we're going to start with the class. So TD, so let's just kind of start off with a little bit of Emmet. So TD with the class of text center, right? And inside of that, we want an anchor tag as an example with a class of button and then button dash primary. And then we'll make it small, button dash small. And we'll also add a class of edit. And that's my own custom class that I'm going to be using in a second. So tab in. Let's put the href. The href is interesting. I'm going to talk about this in a second. But what we want to think about is the I tag as well. We want an edit I tag that's going to go in here because it's going to be the edit button. So it's going to go back up here to here. And let's see if we can find edit. So if edit looks like a pen to square, that's kind of the new one, which is the free solid one, right? And we can see other ones that are there as well that maybe might work well in some other environments, like a marker or a square pen or something else. But I think pen to square is kind of interesting. It looks a little newer, and I haven't used that one, so I'm going to use that one instead. I'm going to put that right here inside of the anchor tag, pen to square. And we're going to call this edit. That's the edit button. But it really doesn't have an href. So how is this going to work? Well, let's think about this for a second. I'm going to click on one of these things, and there's going to be an edit button. The edit button has to edit this particular one. How do I get there? We need to use the ID. Whatever the ID is of this movie is the one we want to edit. So the way we're going to do that is in the href, we're going to use, the path is going to be edit, followed by, there's going to be the ID of the movie. So we're going to say percent equals, and then it's going to be movies count, and then dot underscore ID. That's the ID that comes from the database. Okay, so that is what's going to be in there. Okay, and that's our edit. Let's save that and let's refresh this page and see what it looks like. We have all of our edit buttons now. And if I hover over, you can see that every single time I hover at the bottom left here, you're going to see the path. Notice the path has changed every single time. That's pretty cool, right? I want to do the same thing for the edit, but I want to put delete. And we used trash before. Let's see if there's a delete now or something else. So if I said delete, blah, delete, right? We want to use trash can. That looks pretty cool. Or trash, whatever you want. Or a minus. A minus is actually kind of interesting as well, where I want to delete something. But trash can is pretty cool too. So I like the trash can. Let's go there. We'll grab that trash can. And that's the one I'm going to use. In fact, what I want to do is want to copy this whole thing first. That's kind of the easiest way to do it. And paste it in there. We're going to change it from button primary to button danger. Edit class, I'm going to use a delete class. And hear me out, there's a reason for this. I'm going to use some jQuery to identify the button as a delete button. Instead of, let's grab that again. Instead of FA pen square, we're going to use the trash can. And we're going to say delete here. Right, that's what the button is going to look like. And then inside here, the path, so this is the URL, will be delete followed by the ID that I want to delete, whatever the thing. So it's almost identical to the edit, but this one's just deleting and this one's editing. Okay, awesome. Let's save. And this pretty much fixes up my movie list pretty simply. So if I go back up to here, go to movie list and refresh, now you're going to see the edit button as well. So the edit and delete buttons are here, right? None of this works. The add movie doesn't work right now. The edit movie doesn't work, edit or delete. None of these things work. And the reason for this is because none of these paths, I have none of these paths inside of my router, my movie list router. I need to add this in. But for now, let's put this up on GitHub because this is the first piece. Okay, so again, I'm just going to look at our stuff that's up on YouTube to see if there's any questions. I don't see any. So let's do that. So again, going to go back here and I'm going to it's interesting. I'm going to go git add dot git commit minus m, and I'm going to say added edit page and updated movie list, which is what I did. Git push. That's going to push that stuff up to GitHub, so you have the latest version up online for next week, if you need it again for your midterm test, which is going to use some kind of full CRUD. You have it in TypeScript now, at least this part. Okay. Next, in order for me to enable any of this to work, let's start off with thinking about where it should go. So remember, we've broken it out now into our controllers section, as well as our routes. And in the movie list route, we have a simple route that we're going to have in here. But we want to have the rest. So let's start with our controllers first and do some stubs, put some stubs together in the controllers where we can kind of add our routing in here and access to the controller. The only controller we have right now, or the function, the controller function, is the display movie list. So we want to have not just display movie list page, let's just rough it out here, but we also want to have the display add page. We want to have that. We don't have that right now. We also want to have the display edit page. So those are the display functions. And then we want to have the process add page. How do you process that? As well as the process edit page, right? And then we also want to, we don't have a delete page, but we can proceed routes for this stuff, right? So we need the routes and the functions. So what is this going to look like? So let's kind of pencil all these in, if you will. And again, I'm going to do the controllers first, like I said, because I think that's where we should start. And let's think about what these all should be called. So going back into the controllers, let's go back into the movie list controller. Right now we have the display movie list page. It should return void, right? Because it's not really returning anything. And I'm just going to copy this whole thing here. Actually, let's just copy the signature. That's all I really need from here. Let's copy the signature and we'll put it in here. And instead of display movie list page, we want to display the add page, creating some functions we can access. So we're going to process the add page, and we're also going to process the edit page. Okay, so we have those stubs in there. And one thing is we're also going to be doing one more thing, which is going to be processing the delete page. We don't have a delete page, but we're going to just keep the same structure. There we go. So those are the stubs that we kind of first create, where everything inside here is empty. And the reason for this is because, again, what we want to try and do is we want to set up our structure so we can connect our routing and our controller together. Back to the router. So now that we have those, we need to do the proper routes for these things. And for the for the display, we're going to do a get. So let's copy for the display, we're going to say there's going to be a display here and there's going to be a display here, but they're not going to be movie lists. This one will be the add, right? So we're going to display the add page, and this will be the edit, but edit is going to require a little bit more information than just this. It's going to require the ID, and this structure, which basically tells Express that we're going to say anything that's after the slash and we have a colon. Colon means there is a variable name, in this case ID, that we're going to use, that we're going to be expecting to come in after the edit link, after this link is going to happen. So that is the display edit page. When I process the edit page, okay, I'm just going to grab this part. When I process the edit page itself, that's going to be in here. I'm not going to do a get request, but rather a post request. It's going to be very similar to the add page, but we're just going to process it, right? And instead of using display, we're going to change these functions in a second. Similarly to this one, when I process my edit page, then I'm going to use the ID here, and it's going to be a post request. Okay, there we go. But for my delete page, there is no page to go to. It's just a link. So it's going to have a very similar structure to this. This will be delete. I'm sure you guessed it already. So this will be the delete portion. This will be this friendly variable name I'm going to use. And this one is going to be a get request. So those are going to be the things. This is nice, but these are all wrong, right? This is fine. The display movie list page is okay for the movie list, but not for the add page. So let's try this out. So we're going to say display, and then we're going to start typing add page. We're going to go to the purple option, and we're going to put that in. It's going to also put it up here, which is going to instantly put that in there. So that's going to be the new link. This will be the display edit page. So we'll say display edit page, purple option. There we go there. This will be the process page. So this will be one of the process pages. I'll type in process the add page again. So it'll be that one. This will be process the edit page, right? And then finally, we'll put in process the delete page. Okay. So you notice when I did that, I chose the purple cube option, which allows it to automatically insert the function here in the import statement. Okay, save. So really the router is complete. There's nothing else for my router to do, and I'm not going to be changing this router for today. So let's just go here and we'll say git add dot, git commit -m, and we'll say updated movie list router with CRUD roots. Git push. So that's what we did. We kind of added those in, create, read, update, delete, which allows us to do all those things. Now it's simply a matter of following or adding in the or completing the controller. So we can close this one down. And here in the controller, we can see how the add page will function. The add page is actually the simplest one to start with. So go into the controller function. And in the add page, what we're going to do is we're going to say a res.render, just like we've done above. We're going to use the index view template. And inside here, we're going to pass in the title, which is going to be add. That's going to be the title. We're going to pass in the page, which is going to be the edit page, actually. Okay, that's weird. So when we see this for the first time, that's where we're differing. Why? Because I'm only going to use one page. I'm going to use the edit page, edit.ejs, and it's going to do the job of both the add and the edit page because they're really identical. The only difference between the edit page and the add page is that the add just basically adds new information, the edit edits the old stuff. And I've kind of scripted the edit page here to inject the value of items if they exist. So I'm going to pass in a movie object, and if I have something, it's going to go in here. That means if I'm editing, up here at the top, it's going to say whatever the title is, it's either going to be add movie or edit movie. And down at the bottom, I've also done a switch case where and maybe we can change these out, where I'm going to do the edit button or the add button, depending on which one it is. If the title is edit, we'll display the edit button. If the title is something else, we'll display the add button. And then if we click the cancel button, will take us back to the movie list page. That's what the edit will do. Okay. Back to this. So we know that we need some kind of movie that we're going to pass in. And because we don't have anything yet, the movie for the add page will be blank. So we'll say, well, there is no movie right now. We're just editing, but we need to pass it in because the edit page requires it. Remember, edit, I just showed you. It's looking for a movie object. Whether we want it or not, we have to pass it in. Okay. Back to the movie list. All right, so cool. So then the next one is the display name. So we know the display name, what that looks like. We've already kind of did that. So that is exactly what it shows up here, this part. And just let's close this off for now. So what it is we can grab this right here, and we can just replace this with this. And now we can have everything from the add page. There we go. So the add page is complete. And that is the display add page control function. So back to this. If I refresh, it's going to log me out because I just made a change to the server. And if I log in again, if I click on add, it's going to take me to the edit page, but it's going to say add movie and then this add button or a cancel button. If I click the cancel button, it'll take me back to here. The add button right now doesn't do anything because we don't have a processing function. We only have a display function. Okay, that's what we have. So that is number one. Next, what we want to do for the next piece is let's fix up the next piece. So let's go into next routing function, and let's put this up on GitHub at the same time. So we'll say git add dot git commit -m. We made that change. We'll say we added or completed the completed the display add page function. Git push. All right, there we go. So let's do the next one. So let's do the next display page. So we've got a display movie list, a display add page, a display edit page. The display edit page is actually a little trickier because what we need to do with this one is when we're displaying the edit page, we also have to use the request parameters. So it looks kind of like this. We say, okay, let ID, because we have an ID, equal to the request.params.id. Okay, what the heck is this piece? What does it mean? So this piece gets the parameter that's after the ID in the URL. What? That means that in the route, remember we had that route? And here is the route that says, here's the URL. So after the URL, we have a parameter. Okay, this is the parameter after the URL. And we've named it ID, right? You can name this whatever you want, right? As an example, but I've named it ID because it makes sense, right? And if you go back to the movie list here, we're requesting that parameter, the parameter that's called ID. We're going to take whatever's in there and hold it inside of our local variable that's called ID. Again, if I call this parameter, if I go back to the routes, if I call this parameter Tom, something like this, colon Tom, right? If that's what I did, which is silly, then in here, I might say that params.tom is what I want, right? It's really whatever I call it. Obviously, it makes sense to call it ID, but if I was going to call it something else, that's what I would put there. So this would be ID. Okay, back to that. And cool. So now that I've got the ID, after I've got it, well, I want to pass the ID to the database. That's what I want to do, and read the movie into the edit page. That's what I want to do, right? So first, let's get the movie. So I'm going to say, hey, movie, because we got our movie object, right? And do we? Well, here it is, movie find. Well, here's our movie. We're going to use our movie model. Let's find by ID. That's what we're going to look at. And we're going to pass in the ID of the thing we want to find, plus a couple of additional objects that we're not going to use. Okay, we don't need these. Followed by a callback function that has an error and a movie to edit. Let's say whatever the movie to edit is. Okay, so that's what we got to put there. And so that's the function we're going to use to show us the edit page. And then I'm going to say if there's an error, we've seen this before, then what we want to do is we want to console error that error out. We want to show it. And that'd be, again, a great place to put inside of some kind of utility function. We're going to res end the error. So if there's an error, whatever that error is, we're going to stop. We don't want to continue. But otherwise, if there's no error, then let's show the edit view, right, with the data in place. So we're going to say res render. And let me just grab this piece because it's almost identical to this now. The ad page. It's almost identical to the ad page, where we're going to res render. The title won't be ad. The title will be edit. The page will be edit. And the movie, and this is interesting, will come from the database. It's going to be this name, movie to edit. I'm going to put that right here. So it's going to carry the movie to edit inside the page, right? And that would be it. So that is your display edit page. Awesome. Let's try it and see if it works. So again, I'm going to go back to here and refresh. It's going to log me out. I'm going to log back in. And when I go there and I click edit any one of these things, let's say, for example, Blade Runner now, if I edit that one, oh man, what the heck is this? How come it's doing this? People had reported this is an issue. Whenever you guys see this, it means that there's an error in the pathing. But you're going to say, wait, Tom, but there was no error. We haven't got an error until now. Why are we getting an error now? Well, look at the path. Edit is okay, the edit page. But we're looking one level down into the edit page, which is a special version. This little piece here is basically saying go one level in. Okay, this isn't really a page, but this is a URL. It's part of the URL, and it's detecting it that, hey, we need to go only up one. Up one doesn't compute. None of this stuff works. And if I do a Control-Shift-J, you're going to see that we get a bunch of 404s. And the 404s we're getting are for all the CSS files and even JavaScript that's in here. How do I fix this? Well, that's in the template. So let's go back to the template. So down in here. And instead of dot slash, let's just put slash. Let's just put slash. So all of this is going to put slash. Even things like jQuery, Bootstrap, and this. This is what we want, okay? And if I press save now, so I've updated the view template, the pathing for the view template. And if I go here and refresh, you're going to see now it works. Okay, so that's the error there. So we can see that it reads everything. If I click cancel, it'll take me back here, and I can read any one of them now. Okay, so that's how it'll work. Okay, wonderful. So the display edit function works. Let's put this up on GitHub. So again, back to this, and we'll say git add dot git commit -m, and we'll say completed the display edit page function. Git push. Okay, so that's going to be up there. Awesome. Okay, so we're getting into the nitty-gritty now. So again, we're still doing this display edit. And now we're going to go to process the add page. I want to add a new object into my database. Okay. Again, this is a little bit more involved as we keep going. So first, how we're going to do this. We're going to instantiate a new movie to add. That's what we have to do, right? So we're going to make a new movie. We need to make almost like a container for the movie that we're going to add. So we're going to say let new movie, we'll call it new movie, equals to a new movie. And remember that a movie has the name, which is, we're going to get from the request.body, the form, .movie name. I called it movie name, okay, in the form. And I'm also going to get the director. I'll show you where that is. Request.body.movie director is what I called it, okay? And we're also going to have the year, where we're going to get that from the request.body.movie year. Ooh, really exciting. And as well as the rating, where we're going to get it from the request.body.movie rating. Okay, there we go. So that's an object. So where did I get all these? Oops. Where did I get all this stuff? Movie name, movie director, movie year. That comes from the edit page. Remember, I kind of made the edit page for you. So if you look through there, if you go to the content, and if you go to edit.ejs, you can see that indeed inside of the name attribute, in every input element, there's a name attribute. That name attribute is critical because it represents the variable name that's going to be viewed on the server. So name attributes, movie name, movie director, movie year, movie rating, those are all the attributes, and they have to be spelled exactly this way when I bring them on the server. So if I go back again to the controllers, that's why it looks like this when I created a new object. So I've instantiated a new object now with the right names. That's important. And then I want to insert the new movie object into the database. And that would be in the movies collection where it's going to go, right? So I'm going to say something like, hey, movie, I want to create, and I want to pass in the new movie object followed by a callback. And this is where people get some errors. We're going to fix this error in a second. Followed by a callback function where the callback is going to get the error object. And if I get I'm just going to copy paste that one, this part right here, right? If I get an error, I want to output whatever that error is. We're just capturing it. And it says this error, right? Well, the reason why it's complaining is because it tells you, it says TypeScript doesn't like anything that's implicitly made as any. We need to define what this variable type is. We can just use something called an error callback, which is just a very basic way of defining what this error is, okay? An error callback. All right, good. So now that we've got that, okay, excellent. We want to say, well, what if now the movies, there's no error, then I want to, so the new movie then has been added. And what that means, what do I want to do now? I want to refresh the movie list somehow. And the way to do that is to do a res.redirect back to the movie list. And that's our first change to the database that we're making, this process add page. Let's save this and see if it works. So back to here. Just going to check Discord and make sure there's no questions. Nope, we're still good. Back to this then. If I need to refresh, which is going to log me out, going to log back in. And when I do so, I want to click the add button. I've added Blade Runner, and let's think about another movie that is very popular. We've got Star Wars, Spider-Man, everything everywhere all at once. Those kind of newer movies. Blade Runner, which is an older movie, and let's add an older movie again, and you can look it up. I'm going to kind of put in the Black Hole, which is an old movie we're going to get rid of later on. The Black Hole movie, way back, 1979 film, actually made by Disney, which is kind of interesting. So let's take a look and see what that is. The Black Hole, that's what it was called. Kind of a scary movie too. So let's put that in there. So that's the movie title. So add movie, The Black Hole. The director, which I did not know, was Gary Nelson. Gary Nelson. Year release, we just heard 1979. Oops. Way back, right? Because you can see that that's when it was done. And you know what? It was an okay film. I'm not going to see how many stars or whatever. I'm going to say, look, it says it spent a lot of money, and you can see the reception. You know, if you're going to go down here, if you're interested in movies like I am, if you scroll down, you can see the reception and legacy and all that kind of stuff. And what Rotten Tomatoes gave it a 41 based on 34 reviews, or an average of 5.4 out of 10, which is to us about a 2.5 stars. That's what I'll rate it. Okay, so kind of a less, popular movie. 2.5 stars is what we're going to give it, and we're going to click add. If everything goes well, we'll have the black hole down in here. And notice how we have 2.5 and 3.5, but we don't have stars. We're going to edit these two with our process edit button next. Okay, so we have a couple of buttons. Okay, awesome. So this is good, and this is working well. So let's again go back here and fix it. So we're going to say git add dot, git commit -m. We'll say completed the process add page function. Git push. So that does that. Excellent. Let's do the next one, which is process the edit page. Again, very similar to what we've already done, but we're going to actually copy some stuff from here. Again, what we want is to start off what we did up here with the display edit page. I want to get this ID. So that's one part I need for this part. So I get the ID. Next, after I get the ID, I need to instantiate a new movie to edit. So I'll grab this piece and I'll put that in here. So say instantiate a new movie to edit. And this will be, instead of new movie, it'll be called updated movie. Okay. And the only thing that's missing from this list is the ID. So we can put that in. So underscore ID, that's equal to the ID of the movie that I just got, that one. Okay. And once I have those two pieces, then what I want to do is I want to insert, or update the movie in the database, right? So how does that work? I'm going to say, hey, movie, I want to update one. That's how it goes. I want to search for an object that has the ID as ID. So that's the way we would do it. It's a filter that we're using to search for a movie in the database that matches the ID that we have. And then what I want to do is I'm going to use the updated movie here, updated movie, followed by a callback function that has an error. And you know what? We're going to get errors just like we did before. So we'll call this the error callback. There we are. It's just to prevent any kind of complaining by TypeScript. And just like we did before, the error callback is going to look like this, right? So that's the part that we're going to use. So the error is done. And finally, let's edit the movie. So we're going to say edit was successful. We finished editing. Then what we're going to do is go to the movie list page, right? So we can show what the edit looks like. So we're going to redirect back to the movie list page. And that's really the edit. So edit was not that difficult to do. Again, we're using update one. That's the function that we're using in the database. And you know what? We're going to come back to the delete in a second. There's a couple steps here to get the delete working. So again, save. And let's go back to here. We'll refresh and we'll log in. Admin 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. There we go. And this time what we'll do is we'll edit Blade Runner and the Black Hole to add stars. Hey, look, it brought it up. And I want to say 3.5 stars and click edit. And if I do that, then there it is. It's updated. We'll do the same thing for the black hole, stars, and then click edit and we're good to go. There we go. So quite a few different movies now. And if we've edited everything, the only thing that doesn't work is delete. And we're going to get that done in a second. But first, let's put this up on GitHub. So back to this. And we're going to say git add dot, git commit -m, and we'll say completed process edit page function. Go. That's done. Lastly, the delete, which is not so difficult, but it requires some of the same elements that the other ones did. All right, so we need an ID to delete. We need that one. What ID am I looking for? I also need to, we want to pass the ID to the database, right? And delete the movie, right? So that's what we're going to do. And how does this work? So movie.remove, remove. And what we're going to do is we're going to just use the same ID filter. This, the first part is a filter, right? Which is we're looking for or searching for a movie in the database that matches the ID. That's what the first part is. The next part is the callback function, which, you know what? Let's just put in the error callback just in case we're going to have any kind of errors, which we probably won't. And then, of course, it gives us an error a different way. It says argument of type error callback void is not assignable to parameter of type callback without result. So type callback error is not assignable to error callback. Callback error. Okay, callback error. I wonder if I can put callback error everywhere else. Oop, undo. Error. Is that gonna, oop, undo. Messed up, guys. Let's try that again. Copy, paste. What is going on? Why is it copying everything? Woo. My copy, paste, Copy, paste. I wonder if it complains that way. No, it doesn't complain. Maybe that callback error instead of an error callback. See, it's my brain that's working again. So copy, paste, that's what it is. Callback error. Callback error. Yay. I don't think I have it anywhere else. Oh, and callback error came from Mongoose, of course. Makes sense. All right, so callback error is the one I want to use, not error callback. I'll be okay. And then we're going to say inside of the remove, we're going to have a little error statement that captures and prints the error if there is one, followed by the delete. But we have a problem. And the problem is that this is going to delete no matter what, right? That's a problem. So this is the process delete page function. And if I go back to this and refresh and log in again, go log in, and that's great. We can see if the delete works by just deleting the black hole, which wasn't a great movie anyway in my little list. So if I click delete, well, it's gone. It worked. But what if I didn't want to? What if I wasn't sure about deleting this thing? Well, that's not really cool. And it worked, but it would be nice if, the system asked me, are you sure? Right? That's what we want to do. So let's go back and fix that problem. So it's not really a problem with the function, so that's done. So we've kind of completed CRUD, git add dot, git commits -m, and we'll say completed process delete page function. We did that. And we need just another thing to help us out, okay? A couple things, or one more thing to help us out. We want a confirmation. We want to make sure that the user's sure that is exactly what they want, okay? So I'm going to put that as a little piece of code inside of the client side script. Right now, the client side script has kind of got this useless piece of code here. That was an example of us reading a very simple data.json file, but we really don't need this. Instead, let's put in a little piece of code that helps us, right? So let's just get rid of all this. This is inside of the client side script. It's really a client side issue, isn't it? So how does this work? We're going to say that, hey, jQuery. jQuery is kind of funny in that it kind of says it uses a query. Here's the query. We could also do it with query selector all. But for now, we're going to say we're going to look for an anchor tag with a class of delete. Huh? What the heck? What is this anchor tag with the class of delete that we're searching for? Well, remember, let's go back to this. If we remember in the views inside of the content, I have this movie list EJS page, right? And I happen to put in a delete class. What the heck is a delete class? It's exactly for this reason. I'm using the delete class, so it's a great way for jQuery to find any danger button with a delete class in it, okay? Any anchor tag with a delete class, which is what jQuery does. It says, hey, find all objects, elements on the page that has with an anchor tag, an anchor element with a delete class. And on click, so if you click on that button, we want to do a callback function where we have the event. And what we're going to say is if the confirm, it's like almost like an alert. We're going to say, are you sure? If the confirm is negative, right, so they're not sure, then we want to prevent default behavior, right? That's what that event.prevent default is. You guys should have learned that from your JavaScript class. So stop the default behavior, don't do the deleting, and then redirect. And the way redirecting works on the client side is application.href, and we're going to say that go to the movie list page. And that little function should stop us from inadvertently deleting something without a confirmation. Are you sure it's going to come up with? So let's save that. That's on the client side, so we don't need to reboot the server, which means that if I go back here and if I refresh, we should still be able to, oh, maybe not. There we go. And okay, I don't want to delete Blade Runner because I like that movie, even though it didn't really score that high back in the day. But now it's a cult classic. If I want to delete it, if I click delete, then it should come up with a little message that says, are you sure? If I click cancel, then the answer is no. But maybe you guys don't like Blade Runner, and if I click delete, And if I press OK, then it's gone. Okay, and it's gone for good. So guys, that is full CRUD. I've kind of demonstrated that for you here, and that's great. And the reason why I've done that is I wanted to make sure that you guys were good to go when it comes to all this stuff. I think it's important, to have an example that's in the code style that we've been talking about, which is TypeScript this whole time. So this is great, but it's not quite complete. Let's put this up on GitHub. So I'm going to say git add dot git commit -m, and we'll say added confirm delete code, right? Git push, and that makes the changes our client side so it works. Okay. Now that we've got everything ready, the last step is putting this up on Heroku and all that kind of funny business. And we have our Heroku live site that we're going to do that with. Okay, so let's do that now. So we're going to bring up, first of all, let's stop all this stuff, right? So we're going to stop the database. We're going to stop the nodemon. Nodemon. We're going to stop nodemon. We're going to stop transpiling. Okay. And we're going to kind of turn this off as well. There we go. So everything is off. It's important to do this. And what I want to do is actually exit from Visual Studio Code and turn off our MongoDB. So there's no conflicts. That's important to do. And then up online, what I'm going to do is on the desktop, here's the desktop. I'm going to go to our COMP229 M2022 section 1, and I want to grab everything from here and replace what I have inside of my Heroku live site section 1, which is all this. So let's get rid of all this. Again, super important to do. Let's delete. And then let's grab our desktop. And again, this is just extra. We don't really need, you already know how to do this, or you should. But I'm just going to grab everything from here, everything, and just populate this. So that's including all of our fixes and all that kind of stuff. And then we should put this up on Heroku, and you guys are going to be golden with our site. Okay, so we'll have everything full CRUD, the whole thing. Again, from our last stuff. And this is the first video I made on the Monday this week was with section 2. This one is working with section 1. I'm not going to redo the one for section 2. Just to make sure that you guys are clear that where you can find this data. Again, the GitHub link for this repository, if you look at it, is github.com/Centennial College, and it's section 1. That's where I have the, kind of the files, the example for full CRUD. This is where it is right here. All right, so that's nice. So we can go into our section 1, Heroku live site section 1, and I want to populate that inside Visual Studio Code. So I'm going to open that up. I'm going to drag and drop that in. There it is. And let's close off all the unnecessary editors, close all, right? And let's confirm that this is ready to go for production. So again, if we look here under config and then db.ts, here's our db.ts. This is exactly the same thing, except we don't need this because that is something that is up on Heroku, right? Right. And the way to know this, actually, let's undo that change. The way to know this is we want to take this link and put it up on Heroku. So first, let's prepare. So I'm going to go up on Heroku. And on Heroku, I want to log in. It's going to ask me for my confirmation for my Authenticator app, which I'm going to, of course, say yes, approve. And then when we go in, we're going to look for the Heroku live site for COMP229 in the summer 2022 semester for section 1, that one. And what I want to do is I want to go to settings, and then under reveal config vars, there is this link for section 1. And this is where you want to put your configuration. So if I click onto it, we want to confirm that this is exactly the same that we have as this. So it's O0ZOSQC, right? And otherwise the cluster will be wrong. Okay, so this is the new cluster information. Again, it has to match, and this is section 2. See, we're looking at the wrong one for section 2. We have it for section 2, but what about for section 1? Sorry about that. 229 M2022. I knew it was wrong. Section 1 is what we want, not section 2, this one, section 1. And again, let's go to settings, and then we go to reveal config vars, and let's make sure, that's why I'm checking. Let's make sure that this one has the right one. There it is, O0O or O0Z0SQC. This is the one. So it's already there for us, the remote URI. We can use this anytime we want to. That's nice. And what we want to do is under activity, we want to put this up, and when we deploy this, it's going to pick up our changes and everything is going to work. Okay, let's try this out. So we don't need this anymore is what I'm saying. We don't need to put anything like this up on our site because we have this process and remote URI, and MongoDB Atlas will work because we're up and remote. So save. Let's Control Shift B. Make sure we transpile any changes we need. So this is the watch task here for our Heroku live site. We only have a few changes because this was my test bed in the first place. And I'm going to go to, let's add a new terminal. And I'm going to say git add dot. There it is. Git commit -m, and we're going to say added full CRUD or movie list. Okay, so we didn't change a lot of files. Git push. And then if everything goes well, all of those new things are going to go up onto GitHub. So now let's go back here and let's watch the task. There it is, it's updating. We can view the build in progress. If we did everything correctly, then it's still going to work well, and it's not going to have any problems. Build succeeded, awesome. And it's going to give us a code. It's going to compress everything 53.9 megs or something like that. There we go. And now we have it. We have that Heroku live site link for section 1. Let's log in and see if this still works. So log in. We'll do admin 1, 2, 3. Oops. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. We can log in. And we see now new information we never had before. So this, the add, the edit, the delete. Let's add a new movie list. Let's add that movie that I like, Blade Runner, back. Right, so add, we'll say Blade Runner. Director is Ridley Scott. And year released is 1982. I saw it in the theater. And the rating is, we'll put in only 3.5 stars, but we'll put 3.5 so we can see if the edit works. Add, and you can see that added the movie to our MongoDB Atlas database. And let's edit, where we can kind of go in there and put stars and click edit. And once we put the stars in there, if we click delete, it should ask us if we want to delete. We'll say cancel. It won't delete, but if we're sure, then if we press OK, we delete it and everything is positive. We're good to go. And now we can log out. That is full CRUD, my friends, and everything works online. Fantastic. So that is it for today. Again, just things to note for Monday. Monday, midterm practical test will be released again, like we said, on early on Monday at 8:30. There's no lecture, so no technical lectures next week. So no lecture on Monday or Wednesday, but rather it's just help for you guys for your midterm practical tests. And that's really it. And I'm just going to look and see if there's any questions on YouTube. No. And how about on Discord? I don't see any active questions on Discord right now. And no one's joined me on Zoom. So thank you so much, guys. And that's it for me. And I'll see you guys next week for your midterm test. Thank you. I'm going to stop recording now on YouTube.